This episode goes out to the Exalted Exiles. See you soon, friends. Hi there, Garrett Robinson here. Welcome to the 26th episode of the Nightblade Epic Podcast Season 2. Well, dear listener, the episodes start coming and they don't stop coming. Not just the episodes of this podcast, but also the episodes of Hellskin, the latest book of Underrealm. Supporters of my Patreon get exclusive access to all my Underrealm books as I write them. Just this week, they got the third episode of Hellskin. If you become a Patreon supporter, even for just $1 a month, you get early access to every one of my books as I'm writing them forever. And your support is what lets me do all of this: write the books, publish the audiobooks, and create this podcast. To join up, just go to underrealm.net/Patreon. That's underrealm.net/Patreon. Okay, now it's time for today's episode. Today, you're getting chapters 33 and 35 of Mystic. When we left off, Lauren, Zane, and Annis had stumbled upon the mercenary army in the night as it arrived to sack and destroy the city of Wellmont. Enjoy! Mystic, Chapter 34. Lauren fell to the ground, bringing Annis with her. She swept her feet at Zane's legs, and he crashed to the ground with an angry grunt. But when he rose to his elbows and glared at her, Lauren put a finger to her lips. "Be silent and still," she whispered. "They will have sentries posted, and you will not see them in the dark." The anger did not leave Zane's eyes, but he remained silent as he turned to the army before them. No campfires burned among the host, but the moon's light was more than enough to illuminate hundreds of canvas tents. A few torches shone, held by night watchmen who walked among the tents. "Why are there no fires?" whispered Annis. "They are trying not to be seen," said Lauren. "But they must know they cannot hide so large a force for long. I would wager they mean to attack tomorrow. And if they meant to march at dawn, the camp would be roused already. They are letting the soldiers rest so that they can attack at midday, or may up at sundown." She nodded to herself. "That is when they struck yesterday, so that the darkness would hide them from the city's archers. They think that if they are careful, Wellmont will not see them until their first volley." "But the city knows they are coming," said Zane. "Jordell has warned them." "But the sellswords do not know that," said Lauren. "At least we must hope not." "Well, these matters may concern the great and wise," said Annis, "but I am neither. We have reached the road, wizard. Now our ways part." "You should keep south of these hills as you travel," Lauren told him, "and stay wary in case they have posted sentries on this side. But I doubt they would, for then Wellmont might spy them. You should be safe until you leave the army behind and can be on your way." Zane's lips were pursed, and he did not answer for a moment. Then he slowly shook his head. "I could do that, yes, but it will not solve a greater problem, one that has only just come to me, for now I see its solution. From here I travel to the High King's seat and reclaim my son, but I cannot make that journey on foot. I will need a horse." "So you might, but that is not our concern," said Annis, glaring. "The bargain was struck and our side upheld. Now be on your way, and we will be on ours, and may the twain never meet again." "You may leave if you wish," said Zane carefully, "but still I cannot make my journey without a horse, and the army before us has plenty." Lauren understood his meaning at once. "You cannot think to steal a horse from this army. That is madness. They will find you and kill you. You have no gift for stealth or thievery, and I doubt your magic could withstand their whole host, even with the help of the mage stones." "I know my limits," said Zane. "I could not do it, but I wager that the Nightblade could." Lauren flushed, and was grateful Zane could not see it in the darkness. but Annis glared at the wizard in the starlight. "Do not draw us into another one of your schemes. You are worse than the mystics, and your words grow madder the more of them you speak. Lauren would never be so foolish. It is too dangerous. Our dealings are done, and not too soon if you ask me, which of course no one does." "Too dangerous for Lauren?" said Zane. "She has accomplished more and in worse circumstances than this. The army sleeps. Only a handful patrol the tents. For Lauren, such a task would come easily." "Not easily, and you know it," said Lauren. "Look there. The horses are in the middle of the army. They might not notice my approach, but they could not fail to see me leave. Or will they let a young maid walk out of their midst with one of their steeds in tow?" But even as she spoke, a plan began to form in her mind. It would be dangerous, but she thought she might pull it off. She tried to shake the thought away, but details sprang to mind, fitting into the scheme like pieces to a puzzle. "It is but a thin line of tents that separate the horses from freedom," pressed Zane. "You could ride out before they knew what had happened, and return before sunrise." "Lauren?" Annis snorted. "She has as much skill at riding as a burlap sack, or mayhap less. And anyway, why should she do it? Your concerns are not ours to solve, nor are we beholden to you. We helped you escape the city, not the other way around. Indeed, you have brought nothing but death and danger on us since first we laid eyes on you. If not for you, the constables would never have come to my mother's caravan, and she would never have killed them. You brought Jordell into our affairs, and we have regretted it ever since. And without him, we would have had no concern with Vivian, and I would have been happier for that. No, wizard, you draw trouble like honey draws flies, and I am sick of your sweet words." Lauren wanted desperately to agree with Annis, but for everything the girl said, Lauren could think of a response in Zane's favor. Zane must have thought the same thing, for his face grew grimly amused. "Yet without me, you would never have escaped Vivian upon the river," he said. "You would never have escaped Cabris after your mother decided to hunt the two of you down. And if I had never met Lauren, I should still be in the birchwood," she finished. "I would not wish for that, nor will I deny my gratitude. But still, Zane, you ask for too much." "A weight on both scales clears the account," said Zane. "A young woman once told me that in the birchwood, and I have not forgotten it. I failed to see her wisdom then, but it becomes clearer to me now." "Do not think to flatter me," said Lauren, though again she flushed in the darkness. "This is too great a task. You must travel on foot for now. I do not doubt you will find some place in the Great Rocks where a farmer will trade a nag for some wizardry." "A nag will not be enough." Zane's voice grew softer, almost pleading. "Lauren, you know what I pursue, but you know also what pursues me. The mystics will not give up their hunt, and Jordell knows that I make for the seat. He will send word to his order, hoping they can capture me there. But the arms of my enemies are long, and they will hear of it. They will be prepared for my arrival, and all hope for my success will be lost. Even the Maidstones will not help me then, or I might not reach the seat at all. Now that Jordell has found me, he will be harder to evade. I have no hope but haste. If you will not help me one last time, then break your vow of peace. Draw your dagger and slit my throat here, for it will be a quicker end than the one that will find me after." Lauren looked away. "You think to pluck at guilty strings within my heart. You helped me in the birchwood, yes, but can you claim I did not help you as well? You cannot forget all I have done when you speak of the past." "I do not forget it." Lauren felt his hand on her shoulder. "That is why I ask this of you. Have we not traveled far enough together, daughter of the family Nelda, to earn me this final boon? Do this for me, and let us part as friends, each with some hope of achieving our desires. It is no bad thing to have a wizard in your debt." Lauren pushed his hand away and fixed him with a hard stare. "My debt and then some," she growled. "I will expect you to conquer a city for me if I ask it." Annis's eyes flew wide. "You cannot mean to do as he asks." One outlaw to another, said Lauren. Ignoring Annis's look of horror, she held out a hand. If I call on you, you will answer. Are we agreed? Without hesitation, Zane smiled and took her wrist. One outlaw to another. I quite like that. On your word, said Lauren, gripping his wrist and shaking hard. Now, let us see if I have yet earned my name. Mystic, Chapter 35. They crept back down the hill on its southern side, where they found a narrow dell with many trees to hide them from any watchers above. There Lauren told Annis and Zane to wait until she returned, hopefully with a steed. We shall wait, said Zane. Only make haste, for dawn is close. Do not tell me to hasten my steps into danger while you wait here in safety, said Lauren. I have half a mind to bring you with me, and I would if I did not think you would walk loudly enough to wake the whole army. Lauren, you must not do this, pleaded Annis. It is far too perilous, and if anything should happen to you, well, have you thought of what would happen to me? Alone here with this madman of a wizard? This madman has ears, said Zane. I hope they burn with shame, snapped Annis, glaring at him. I will take no sharp words from you, and you deserve to hear many more from me. I will not be long, said Lauren. All will be well. They will take no more notice of me than their own shadows. That is easily said, but harder done. If something should go wrong, make for the city, said Lauren. They will not turn you away, especially if you bring them word of the mercenaries. They will see no threat in you. Because I am only a little girl, you mean? Said Annis, scowling. Lauren put a hand on her chin and tilted her face up. It is no bad thing to seem less of a threat than you are. Remember that always. When you look at me, you see a simple woodsman's daughter. Little would you know that you match eyes with the world's greatest thief. Annis laughed, but tears sprang into her eyes. I do not like your talk of remembering always. It sounds too much like a last goodbye. Do not tell me what to do if you fail to return. Instead, promise that you will. Lauren did not blink. I have chosen a life of darkness and lies. I have skill in the shadows and with twisted words, but I must always have someone to whom I will speak only the truth. Without that, I will go mad. That is what you are to me, Annis, and so I will make you no promise unless I know I can keep it. Annis's tears sprang forth at last. She wrapped her arms around Lauren's waist, and Lauren returned the embrace, the sweet smell of the girl's hair flooding her nostrils. Do your best, then, or I shall walk into the sellsword camp and fetch you home myself. My best is all I can promise, said Lauren, and I do so willingly. Annis turned her face and retreated into the dell. Zane studied Lauren with careful eyes. See to her safety, said Lauren. I shall return swiftly, or not at all. I will, said Zane. If anything should go wrong, I will ensure she reaches Wellmont. Thank you, said Lauren. Wish me luck. Why should I? You have never had any to begin with, and yet you seem to do well enough without it. Lauren smirked and turned from him. Her black cloak whirled around her shoulders as she slipped into the night. As her feet whispered through the soft grass, her weariness seemed to weigh her down at once. With a shock, she realized she had not slept since the morning of the Dorshan attack. Since then, she had seen enough adventure for many lifetimes, and yet now here she was, rushing headlong into her greatest peril yet. Still, I hope it will make a good story, she said out loud, her words swallowed by the night. A better one if I survive, I suppose. She had drawn near the top of the hill now, and she began to walk more carefully, neither bending the grass nor making a sound. When she crested the hill, she stopped, surveying the tents below and observing the torches winding through the lines. The mercenaries would have sentries, and she would have to find some way to slip through them. Darkness might provide enough cover, but then again it might not. There was no way to know until she saw how many there were and how far apart. For some while she lay in the grass, trying to pierce the darkness with her eyes. But she soon grew impatient, knowing dawn could not be far away. Her eyelids grew heavy, and once or twice her head drooped. She reached up and pinched her cheek, hard enough to make her eyes water. "You will not fall asleep," she growled to herself. What an inglorious end to my tale that would make. Then she drowsed off atop the hill, and the next thing she knew, a spear prodded her awake as the soldiers attacked. Her friends would have mourned her death had they not been too busy laughing at her foolishness. Just as she had begun to wonder if the army had posted sentries after all, she caught a glint of starlight on metal. Her eyes shot to it, and after a moment she made out the shape of a man in a gray cloak sitting against a fallen log. In an instant she realized her mistake and how crafty the mercenaries had been. Their sentries on this side of the road stood in the shadows of the hills, where the moons could not shine their silver light. Only luck had given Lauren a glimpse of the man as the stars caught the steel of his sword pommel. He was close to her, much closer than she would have thought possible, and her heart skipped as she imagined herself crawling ignorant down the hillside into his waiting arms. Gone were any thoughts of sleep. Now that she knew what to look for, she crawled west along the hillside with a sharp eye for the next sentry. This one she spotted without much trouble, not far from the first. They were close enough that she might sneak between them, but it would be a dangerous business. Even the slightest noise would give her away, and once she passed from the shadows she would not be hard to spot in the moon's light. She would have to create a distraction. She wished for a moment that she had brought Zane, so that he could send a bolt of lightning flying. In the sentry's shock she could have slipped by. But mayhap such a plan would have been worse, for then the camp would surely be roused, and her chances of emerging unscathed would diminish. Lauren thought of her dagger, but she dismissed the idea immediately. Only sheer luck had made it useful thus far, and she did not like the odds that one of these men might know and respect the mystics who dealt with such weapons. No, she would have to draw them out, but in such a way that they would decide in the end there was nothing worth alerting the camp about. An idea struck her. It seemed risky, but she had little time to think of anything else. South of the hills, close to the river, the grass had been lush and green. Here, beside the road, it was dry and cracked with summer's heat. Such scrub caught fire easily and could quickly spread to an inferno. Lauren had never seen a forest fire, but she had heard tales from droughts in days past, when swaths of the forest could catch a blaze at once. It was every forest dweller's greatest fear. What were the chances that the sentries might know this? Fair, she supposed, especially if they came from lands where woods were common and grew dry in summer. A small fire, then, hardly more than wisps of smoke, might draw them out. Quickly she went into action, pulling several dried scrub brushes and branches together. To make it look like an old campfire, she collected a few small stones and arranged them in a circle. Flint sprang to her hands from the pouch at her belt, and her hunting knife from her boot. She struck once, twice, thrice, and a few small sparks leaped to the tinder. Within a moment, a small flame licked up from the grass. Lauren waited as long as she could, and then stole away. Her first instinct was to run away from the sentries while she waited for them to see the fire, but then she realized that would only put her outside their ring, and their eyes would be turned even more watchfully outward. So instead she ran halfway down the hillside towards a boulder and dropped down beside it. She pressed her face into the grass and threw her cloak overhead, and then she curled her legs up to rest beneath the hem. It was not long before she heard a cry farther down the hill and feet running up the slope, along with the soft jingle of chainmail. "What is it?" called a voice. "A light!" The sentry's voice sounded as though it were right on top of Lauren. "Someone has started a fire!" Footsteps passed and receded to silence up the hillside. Then another came running by, and another. At last all fell quiet, and Lauren could hear nothing but her thundering pulse. "It looks like a campfire," said one of the men. His voice was distant, and Lauren had to strain to hear the words. "But no one is around," said another. "That only means they are wandering about in the darkness," said the first. "Run back to camp and alert one of the officers. The army must be roused." Lauren's hopes plummeted, until a third voice spoke above the others. "Hold that order," he said. "In summer, an ember may lurk unseen for days before sparking to life. This could have been said a week ago, or more." "Or tonight," said the first man. "We should send word." "And risk tomorrow's march for an old campfire long dead? I will not risk it, for if we rouse them and find nothing, the commander's wrath will fall upon us." "Yet if we say nothing and are attacked—" "By one wanderer, mayhap lost in the darkness. It could be no greater force, for who would be so foolish as to light a fire to announce their coming? No, at worst this is some moon's light traveler who fled as soon as they saw us coming up the hill towards them." Lauren needed hear no more. She peeked under the edge of her cowl. 3 figures were silhouetted against the night sky. Rising to hands and knees, she crawled around the rock before standing. Bent double to make herself small, she dashed on ahead as her eyes scanned for any other enemy. But no sentries stood near, and so in silence and shadow she crept among the tents of the sellsword camp. This has been a production of Legacy Books, written and narrated by Garrett Robinson. The music in this podcast was created by Will Musser. Check out his incredible work at willmusser.com. That's WILLMUSSER.com. Today's letter is E. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.